One factor alone caused the Great War. It was not the assassination at Sarajevo, not the Slavic ferment of anti-Teutonism in Austria and the Balkans. The only cause of the world's greatest war was the determination of the German High Command and the powerful circle surrounding it that Der Tag had arrived. The assassination at Sarajevo was only the peg for the pendant of war. Another peg would have been found inevitably, had not the projection of that assassination presented itself as the excuse. Germany's military machine was ready. A gray-green uniform that at a distance would fade into misty obscurity had been devised after exhaustive experiments by optical, dye, and cloth experts cooperating with the military high command. These uniforms had been standardized and fitted for the millions of men enrolled in Germany's regular and reserve armies. Rifles, great pyramids of munitions, field kitchens, traveling post offices, motor lorries, a network of military railways leading to the French and Belgian border, all these and more had been made ready. German soldiers had received instructions which enabled each man, at a signal, to go to an appointed place where he found everything in readiness for his long, forced marches into the territory of Germany's neighbors. More than all this, Germany's spy system, the most elaborate and unscrupulous in the history of mankind, had enabled the German High Command to construct in advance of the declaration of war concrete gun emplacements in Belgium and other invaded territory. The cellars of dwellings and shops rented or owned by German spies were camouflaged concrete foundations for the great guns of Austria and Germany. These emplacements were in exactly the right position for use against the fortresses of Germany's foes. Advertisements and shop signs were used by spies as guides for the marching German armies of invasion. Posterity will regard him as more responsible than any other human being for the sacrifice of millions of lives in the Great War, as a ruler who might have been beneficent and wise, but attempted to destroy the liberties of mankind and to raise on their ruins an odious despotism. To forgive him and to forget his terrible transgressions would be to condone them. Francis Joseph died before the war had settled the fate of the Habsburgs. The end came on November 21, 1916, in the 68th year of his reign. His life was tragic. He lived to see his brother executed, his queen assassinated, and his only son a suicide, with always before him the specter of the disintegration of his many-raced empire. In brief, Germany had planned for war. She was approximately ready for it. Under the shelter of such high-sounding phrases as "we demand our place in the sun" and "the seas must be free," the German people were educated into the belief that the hour of Germany's destiny was at hand. German psychologists, like other German scientists, had cooperated with the imperial militaristic government for many years to bring the Germanic mind into a condition of docility. So well did they understand the mentality and the trends of character of the German people that it was comparatively easy to impose upon them a militaristic system and philosophy by which the individual yielded countless personal liberties for the alleged good of the state. Rigorous and compulsory military service, unquestioning adherence to the doctrine that might makes right, and a secession to the all-highest, as the emperor was styled, of supreme powers in the state are some of the sufferances to which the German people submitted. German propaganda abroad was quite as vigorous at home, but infinitely less successful. The German High Command did not expect England to enter the war. It counted on America's neutrality with a leaning toward Germany. It believed that German colonization in South Africa and South America would incline these vast domains toward friendship for the Central Empires. How mistaken the propagandists and psychologists were, events have demonstrated. It was this dream of world domination by Teutonic culture that supplied the motive leading to the world's greatest war. Bosnia, an unwilling province of Austria-Hungary, at one time a province of Serbia and overwhelmingly Slavic in its population, had been seething for years with anti-Teutonic ferment. The Teutonic court at Vienna, leading the minority Germanic party in Austria-Hungary, had been endeavoring to allay the agitation among the Bosnian Slavs. In pursuance of that policy, Archduke Francis Ferdinand, heir presumptive to the thrones of Austria and Hungary, and his morganatic wife, Sophia Chotek, Duchess of Hohenberg, on June 28, 1914, visited Sarajevo, the capital of Bosnia. On the morning of that day, while they were being driven through the narrow streets of the ancient town, a bomb was thrown at them, but they were uninjured. They were driven through the streets again in the afternoon for purpose of public display. A student, just out of his teens, one Gavrilo Princip, attacked the royal party with a magazine pistol and killed both the Archduke and his wife. Here was the excuse for which Germany had waited. Here was the dawn of the day. The Germanic court of Austria asserted that the crime was the result of a conspiracy leading directly to the Slavic court of Serbia. The Serbians, in their turn, declared that they knew nothing of the assassination. They pointed out the fact that Sophia Chotek was a Slav and that Franz Ferdinand was more liberal than any other member of the Austrian royal household, and finally, that he, more than any other member of the Austrian court, understood and respected the Slavic character and aspirations. At 6 o'clock on the evening of July 23rd, Austria sent an ultimatum to Serbia, presenting 11 demands and stipulating that categorical replies must be delivered before 6 o'clock on the evening of July 25th. Although the language in which the ultimatum was couched was humiliating to Serbia, the answer was duly delivered within the stipulated time. The demands of the Austrian note in brief were as follows. 1. The Serbian government to give formal assurance of its condemnation of Serb propaganda against Austria. 2. The next issue of the Serbian official journal was to contain a declaration that effect. 3. This declaration to express regret that Serbian officers had taken part in the propaganda. 4. The Serbian government to promise that it would clear and confident. Followed by England's declaration of war. Monday, August 3rd, was signalized by Belgium's declaration of its neutrality and its firm purpose to defend its soil against invasion by France, England, Germany, or any other nation. The actual invasion of Belgium commenced on the morning of August 4th, when 12 regiments of Uhlans crossed the frontier near Vaz and came in contact with a Belgian force driving it back upon Liège. King Albert of Belgium promptly appealed to England, Russia, and France for aid in repelling the invader. England sent an ultimatum to Germany, fixing midnight of August 4th as the time for expiration of the ultimatum. This demanded that satisfactory assurances be furnished immediately that Germany would respect the neutrality of Belgium. No reply was made by Germany, and England's declaration of war followed. Chancellor von Bethmann-Hollweg of the German Empire wrote Germany's infamy into history when, in a formal statement, he acknowledged that the invasion of Belgium was a wrong that we will try to make good again as soon as our military ends have been reached. To Sir Edward Goschen, British ambassador to Germany, he addressed the inquiry, "Is it the purpose of your country to make war upon Germany for the sake of a scrap of paper?" The Treaty of 1839-1870, guaranteeing Belgium's neutrality, was the scrap of paper. With the entrance of England into the war, the issue between autocracy and democracy was made plain before the people of the world. Austria and later Turkey joined with Germany. France and Japan, by reason of their respective treaty obligations, joined England and Russia. Italy, for the time, preferred to remain neutral, ignoring her implied alliance with the Teutonic empires. How other nations lined up on the one side and the other is indicated by the State Department's list of war declarations and diplomatic severances, which follows. Austria against Belgium, August 28, 1914. Austria against Japan, August 27, 1914.
Austria against Montenegro, August 9, 1914. Austria against Russia, August 6, 1914. Austria against Serbia, July 28, 1914. Belgium against Germany, August 4, 1914. Brazil against Germany, October 20.